As I recall my first day at work, the excitement and pride feel like a distant memory. The sheen of my new badge, the crispness of my uniform, the promise of justice and order. All of that has now taken a back seat to the unspeakable horrors I've witnessed and the world-shattering truths I've stumbled upon. My badge wasn't just a symbol of law enforcement. It was a key to a Pandora's box of unimaginable horrors. Over the years, I witnessed things I never thought possible, secrets buried so deep within the system, secrets that were never meant to reach the light of day. As I climbed the ranks, I realized that the institution I had once revered was not as noble as it seemed. The first indication that things were not as they seemed came during an operation dubbed Pandemonium. We were tasked with investigating a series of unexplained incidents happening in a small town in the Midwest. There were reports of unworldly creatures, of people disappearing only to be found days later, mentally unhinged and physically distorted. It was here that I encountered my first supernatural being, an entity that seemed to feed off fear, materializing from the shadows and vanishing without a trace. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, a creature straight out of the darkest corners of human imagination. The reality of its existence sent a shiver down my spine, redefining everything I had ever believed in. I discovered that this was just the tip of the iceberg. My work started revolving around investigating incidents of supernatural occurrences and dealing with beings that defied the laws of nature. Ghosts, shapeshifters, creatures that moved between dimensions, ancient entities that had existed long before humans walked the earth. The reality was horrifying, the stakes higher than I had ever imagined. Covering up these incidents became part of my job. We spun stories, made up logical explanations, and did everything to prevent the public from learning about these creatures' existence. The government's concern was less about public safety and more about maintaining order, preventing panic. I recall one operation where we had to contain an outbreak of a virulent spectral plague spread by an ancient spirit. The casualties were in the hundreds, but the public was made to believe it was a new strain of influenza. Each cover-up added to the weight of guilt I carried, the horror of the reality that was being hidden from the world. As the years passed, the line between the world I knew and the world I was a part of started blurring. I felt myself pulled into this dark underbelly, these horrific secrets that seemed to gnaw at my sanity. I was living in constant fear, the horrors I witnessed etched into my soul, the lies and cover-ups eating away at my conscience. My job was to serve and protect, but who was I really protecting? And from what? The system that was supposed to uphold justice was cloaked in deception and horrors that defied comprehension. The reality was that I wasn't just working for the government. I was part of a centuries-old machinery designed to shield humanity from the terrifying truth of our existence. Looking back, I realized the shiny badge I once wore with pride was nothing more than a shackle, binding me to a world of nightmares, a world where supernatural beings weren't just stories told around a campfire. They were real. They were among us, and they were a secret the government would kill to keep. Living with the knowledge of the supernatural world that existed alongside our own was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. Every case brought with it a new level of horror, a new creature from the depths of a nightmare. There was the haunting of a small coastal town by the ghost of a drowned sailor seeking revenge, the sightings of a giant winged creature causing mass hysteria in the mountains, and the awakening of an ancient forest spirit that caused an entire city to be enveloped in aggressive vegetation overnight. The people who fell victim to these entities, they had no idea what they were really up against. We would swoop in, deal with the situation, fabricate a logical explanation, and move on to the next case. The public would breathe a sigh of relief, oblivious to the true nature of the threat they had faced. I remember a young girl, barely in her teens, who had unknowingly become a medium for spirits. They used her to communicate, sometimes even to harm others. We managed to free her from their grip, but the experience had taken its toll on her. To the world, she was a victim of acute psychosis, her horrific experiences chalked up to mental illness. Every night I'd come home, my heart heavy with secrets I couldn't share, my mind haunted by the things I had seen. It felt like living a double life, the dutiful government agent by day, and by night a tormented soul carrying the weight of hidden horrors. I became increasingly disillusioned with my role, The ethical dilemma ate at me. We were fighting these supernatural beings, yes, but we were also denying people the truth about the world they lived in. Was it right to keep them in the dark, blissfully unaware of the dangers that lurked in the shadows? The government seemed to think so. Eventually, the strain became too much to bear. I was haunted, not by the supernatural beings I had encountered, but by the secrets I was forced to keep, the lies I had to tell. I was part of a system that thrived on deceit and manipulation, using fear of mass panic as an excuse to keep these life-altering truths hidden. And so I made the hardest decision of my life. I quit, turned my back on the institution I had once pledged to serve. But leaving the job did not mean leaving behind the knowledge, the horror, or the guilt. Now I stand on the other side, torn between the need to reveal these horrifying truths to the world and the potential chaos it could cause. I'm haunted by the faces of those I've lied to, the lives that have been affected, and the supernatural world that continues to exist, concealed within the fabric of our own. From the moment I left the agency, I found myself in a twilight existence, a purgatory between the world I once knew and the world I had been a part of. The supernatural threats were still there, lurking in the periphery of human society, but I was no longer part of the covert efforts to shield the populace from their existence. The guilt of the lies I'd told and the secrets I'd kept continued to gnaw at me, but the fear of the potential havoc the truth could wreak kept me silent. Night after night, I found myself grappling with the decision. Could I shatter the world's innocence? Would it lead to panic and chaos, or would it empower humanity to defend itself? In the midst of my internal struggle, the supernatural world didn't remain idle. Unexplained incidents still popped up in the news, eerie reminders of the ongoing hidden war. A town with an unusually high number of comas, a series of baffling animal mutilations, a building where every mirror reflected a different world, signs and symptoms I was all too familiar with. It was during one of these incidents that I ran into Sarah, a fiercely independent journalist investigating the same strange occurrences. Her fierce determination and sharp intuition made it clear that she was close to connecting the dots. I found myself facing a dilemma. Do I let her continue her investigation, possibly putting her life in danger? Or do I intervene? In the end, I couldn't stand aside and let history repeat itself. I decided to help Sarah, providing her with guidance and cryptic clues, while still preserving the thin veil of secrecy that surrounded the supernatural world. It was a risky game to play, but at least it gave me a sense of purpose. Together we began to tackle these cases from the shadows. While I couldn't use my previous resources, my experience and knowledge were invaluable. We managed to save lives, albeit secretly, intervening when and where we could without revealing the truth about the supernatural world. Despite our efforts, I knew this was not a long-term solution. The more we intervened, the more I felt the pressing weight of the world's ignorance. It felt like standing on a ticking time bomb, knowing that sooner or later the truth would come out, potentially in a catastrophic way. My life had come full circle, from serving the government's hidden agenda to fighting against it, from upholding a lie to seeking a way to reveal the truth. But this time I wasn't alone. Sarah was with me, her unwavering resolve a constant source of strength. I'd always known that this path could lead to dangerous consequences, and I wasn't wrong. As Sarah and I delved deeper, we started noticing the telltale signs of being watched. Strange noises in the middle of the night, shadows that moved just at the edge of vision, a cold sensation of being followed. We had attracted the attention of my former employers. There was a chilling moment when we found a coded warning message slipped under our door. It was an ultimatum: cease our activities or face severe repercussions. The hidden war, it seemed, had just become personal. But we were past the point of no return. Fear would not deter us. Instead, it hardened our resolve. And then came the day that changed everything. Sarah had been working on a story about a series of bizarre electrical storms localized over a government facility in Nevada. We both knew there was more to it than unusual weather patterns. It was a sign of a powerful entity, one that had been awakened or brought into our world. Our investigation led us to a whistleblower, a scientist who had been part of the project that had accidentally summoned the entity. The poor man was terrified, living in constant fear of being discovered. He confirmed our suspicions, providing the first tangible piece of evidence that could expose the existence of the supernatural world to the public. But there was a price to pay. Shortly after our meeting, the scientist was found dead, an apparent suicide, but Sarah and I knew better. It was a message from the agency, a clear signal of their determination to keep the supernatural world hidden. Their threat escalated from covert intimidation to overt violence, forcing us to go off the grid. But even in the face of this danger, we remained undeterred. We continued our work, gathering more evidence, connecting with other potential whistleblowers, carefully planning our next move. Despite the constant fear and pressure, there was a strange sense of liberation. The world needed to know about the supernatural entities that shared their reality, about the government's covert operations to control and conceal these beings. And so began our race against time. As the clock ticked down, Sarah and I dove into our work with a sense of desperate urgency, our every move watched by unseen eyes. We knew our first revelation needed to be irrefutable, strong enough to withstand the government's denials and cover-ups. But we also knew that we were playing a high-stakes game. One wrong move could mean not just the end of our mission, but potentially our lives as well. The breakthrough came in the form of a cryptic video file, given to us by an anonymous source within the agency. The footage showed a monstrous creature, part shadow, part solid darkness, swirling in a containment unit at an undisclosed location. The entity defied all laws of physics, its mere existence a testament to the supernatural reality I had once been a part of. Armed with this evidence, we set our plan in motion. Sarah used her journalistic contacts to ensure that the video would be broadcast on several major news outlets simultaneously. Our accompanying report provided a detailed breakdown of the various incidents we'd encountered, painting a clear picture of the systematic cover-up carried out by the government. The day of the revelation was fraught with tension. As the world went about its business, oblivious to the imminent upheaval, we watched the seconds tick down to the agreed broadcast time. With a final glance at each other, a silent acknowledgement of the step we were about to take, we waited. When the story broke, the reaction was instantaneous and overwhelming. Calls flooded news stations, social media exploded with discussions, and the video clip of the shadowy entity went viral within minutes. The world was in shock, scrambling to understand the terrifying new reality presented to them. The government's response was swift. They claimed the video was a hoax, part of a targeted disinformation campaign. They denounced us, painting us as traitors and conspiracy theorists. But the seed had been planted. People started questioning, and other whistleblowers began to come forward, bolstering our claims with their testimonies and evidence. The world as we knew it was unraveling, but in its place a new reality was forming. One where humanity was no longer in the dark, where the supernatural was acknowledged and accepted. It was a time of fear, confusion, and disbelief, but also of curiosity and a sense of wonder. Living in hiding became our new normal. Even as the world grappled with the truth, we continued our work from the shadows, supporting those who had chosen to stand with us, unearthing more secrets and, whenever possible, intervening to protect those caught in the supernatural crosshairs. In this new world, our roles had shifted. We were no longer simply investigators or journalists. We became mentors, guides to those who chose to accept this unsettling reality and wished to understand it. A small network of believers, other whistleblowers, and researchers formed around us, all working towards a common goal: to study and coexist with the supernatural entities. Every day brought new challenges and revelations. One day we might be decoding a centuries-old text predicting the arrival of interdimensional beings. The next, we could be helping a small town deal with a poltergeist infestation, all the while staying beneath the government's radar. Despite the constant danger, there was a sense of purpose in our lives that kept us going. We were shaping a new reality, helping the world to evolve. We became beacons of truth in a world struggling with change. One incident still remains etched in my mind. A young boy had started seeing shadows, hearing whispers from the unseen. The terrified family reached out to us through our clandestine network. Recognizing the symptoms, we realized the boy was a developing medium, a conduit between the physical and spiritual world. We stepped in to help, teaching the boy to control his abilities, to protect himself from malevolent entities. The relief and gratitude on his family's faces when they understood that their son was not ill but merely different was a clear reminder of why we had chosen this path. Yet with every revelation, with every supernatural incident, we were reminded of the need for a more structured, knowledgeable approach to this new world. If supernatural beings were to coexist with humanity, the world needed to understand them, not fear them. And so we began to dream of a world where our covert operations could turn into an open organization, one that could help humanity navigate this strange new reality. An organization that could study these entities, help those affected by them, and potentially even communicate or negotiate with these beings. But until that day, we remain hidden, working tirelessly behind the scenes. Every secret we uncover, every person we help, is a step towards a world where the supernatural is not feared, but understood. A world that acknowledges the horrifying truth as part of its reality. We operated from an undisclosed location, an old off-the-grid farmhouse that served as our base of operations. We had turned it into a hub for research, a safe house for whistleblowers, and a makeshift training facility for those affected by the supernatural. It was a home for those who, like us, lived in the shadows. Our network had grown. Word of mouth in the hidden corners of society had led others to us. Paranormal investigators, cryptozoologists, even a few ex-government agents had joined our cause. We were a motley crew, united by a common purpose. Each day was a lesson in survival. We would monitor news, internet chatter, and police scanners for signs of supernatural activity, dispatching our teams to assist whenever possible. We offered guidance to those confronted with the supernatural, aided other whistleblowers in exposing further government secrets, and in dire situations, intervened directly. There were victories, small moments of triumph when we were able to help. And there were losses, too. Encounters that ended in tragedy, the supernatural proving too powerful, too unpredictable. Each loss was a stark reminder of the dangers we faced and the cost of the truth. Then everything changed again. Our network was compromised. Somehow our location was discovered. A government task force descended upon our farmhouse. They came at night, armed with state-of-the-art weaponry designed to combat the supernatural. It was a direct, ruthless attack. In the chaos, our focus was clear: protect our people, protect the knowledge we had accumulated. As firefights broke out across the property, Sarah and I rushed to secure our research, scrambling to save the irreplaceable data and artifacts. With our backs against the wall, it was the supernatural that saved us. A powerful entity we had previously encountered, one we had helped free from government control, came to our aid. The shadow creatures swept through the battlefield, scattering the task force and giving us the opportunity to escape. We had lost our base, but we had survived, and our resolve was stronger than ever. Forced on the run again, we had to adapt, to be more careful, more cunning. But we continued our work, even as we searched for a new safe haven. Being confronted with the tangible wrath of the government was terrifying, but it also solidified our belief in our mission. They had shown their hand, proven that they would stop at nothing to suppress the truth. But we, in turn, were just as determined to expose it. On the run again, we moved constantly, relying on a web of safe houses scattered throughout the country. Each one was known to only a handful of our most trusted allies. Our network had become a nomadic community, always on the move, always on the watch. In spite of our circumstances, our work continued. New cases emerged every day, people in need of help, strange phenomena that demanded investigation. From rural hauntings to urban encounters with unknown creatures, we found ourselves navigating an increasingly complex supernatural landscape. But it was not all darkness. In this new world, we discovered wonders that defied explanation and filled us with awe. We saw entities that could manipulate time, creatures that defied our understanding of biology, glimpses of other dimensions that expanded our perception of reality. It was a stark reminder that the supernatural world, while dangerous, was also filled with beauty and mystery. There were times when we could almost forget the weight of our predicament, caught up in the thrill of discovery. Like the time we helped a small town negotiate a peace deal with a group of forest spirits, or when we were called to a school where a young girl had accidentally opened a portal to another dimension in her science lab. Every case, every encounter, was a piece of the puzzle, a glimpse into the vast tapestry of the supernatural world. Yet the threat of the government loomed over us. Their agents were a constant shadow on the horizon, their resources seemingly endless. But we had something they didn't: the trust and loyalty of a growing community who believed in the truth, in the importance of coexistence. Slowly but surely, the balance began to shift. More and more people started to accept the supernatural as a part of their world. Stories of peaceful encounters, of assistance and mutual respect between humans and supernatural entities, started to surface. It seemed that the truth, horrifying as it might have been, was fostering understanding. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still we persisted. Living on borrowed time and fading resources, we fought to keep our network alive. Our efforts had created ripples, sparking conversations, seeding doubt, and slowly changing minds. We saw the world grapple with the idea of a shared reality, humanity wrestling with its sense of self in the face of the unknown. Fear and exhaustion became our constant companions. The former members of our team had to come to terms with their new lives as fugitives, grappling with the trauma of what they had witnessed and the weight of the secrets they now carried. But amidst the turmoil, we found strength in each other, our shared mission becoming a beacon in the darkest of times. During these months, I found myself returning to the beginning, to the day I had quit the government, questioning whether I had made the right choice. But each time I was reminded of why I had chosen this path. I would look at the faces of the people we had helped, the lives we had changed, and the secrets we had uncovered, and I knew I had made the right decision. One late autumn night, a breakthrough came. One of our team members, a hacker extraordinaire, had managed to intercept classified government communication. It contained information about an upcoming large-scale operation, one that aimed to capture and control a major supernatural entity. Armed with this knowledge, we had a choice to make. We could lay low, avoid the impending conflict, or we could intervene, attempt to prevent the government's plan. It was a high-risk move, one that could lead to our capture or worse. But it was also an opportunity, a chance to protect the supernatural entity and expose the government's tactics to the world. We chose to act. Using the information we had, we coordinated a counter-operation. Our network sprung into action, our collective skills and resources coming together in a powerful display of solidarity. It was a dangerous dance, a race against time to save an entity we hardly understood from the clutches of the government. The operation was intense, chaotic. Our plan, though carefully crafted, was constantly disrupted by unforeseen circumstances. We found ourselves in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse with the government's elite task force, one wrong move away from capture or defeat. But in the end, our determination prevailed. We managed to divert the government's attention long enough for the entity to escape, slipping away into the unknown. Our intervention had also provided enough evidence of the government's plans to stir public outrage, adding fuel to the growing demand for transparency and accountability. Exhausted but victorious, we retreated back into the shadows, leaving the world to digest this new revelation. The public outcry that followed was immense, leading to increased scrutiny of the government and a push for legislation to protect supernatural entities. Through it all, we remained hidden, watching as the world grappled with the truth we had unveiled. Our work was far from over, but we had scored a significant victory, and with each passing day, each exposed secret, we grew closer to our goal. And so we continue undeterred, driven by a horrifying truth and a hopeful future.
That's all for now. Please leave us a comment and tell us what you think. Please also like and subscribe. Thank you.